Lara didn't know exactly what awaited her, but something inside her said that the future was about to change. She felt a growing energy, as if the universe had decided it was time to give her a push, to get out of her place, and finally experience everything she had always dreamed of. The past, with its shadows and pain, no longer defined her, but now she found herself facing a new challenge, allowing herself to live the greatness she knew she was destined to achieve. She was no longer chasing after a distant future, but experiencing each moment as if it were a great opportunity. Everything she did was now imbued with a greater purpose. Lara knew that success wouldn't come overnight, but that was no longer the question. She had already understood that the value was in the process, in the small, daily victories that brought her closer to her goal. What really fascinated her now was the way events began to fall into place. Lara was no longer tied to logic. She no longer worried so much about the future or the immediate result. Instead, she was learning to embrace the unexpected, to embrace uncertainty as an ally. Those who, before, said that she would not be able to achieve her dreams, now saw a different Lara, stronger, more determined, more unbeatable. The people around her were starting to realize how much she had changed. It wasn't just about looks or words, but a palpable energy that radiated from her, an energy that said, "I can do it." But most surprising of all was that Lara was no longer seeking validation. She already knew that her true strength came from within. She didn't need the approval of others to move forward. Every step she took was more aligned with her true self, and it gave her an inner peace that previously seemed impossible to achieve. However, Lara's journey would not be easy, and the unexpected was, as always, lurking. A new challenge arose when she was invited to a unique opportunity for personal growth. A large company was looking for someone with a leadership profile, and, somehow, she was chosen to participate in a challenging selection process, a true test of her ability to stand out in a competitive and dynamic environment. For many people, this would be their golden chance, but Lara felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She knew that this opportunity was indeed a big step, but she also knew that it represented a huge change in her life. She would have to step out of her comfort zone, face new insecurities, learn to deal with pressure she had never experienced before. Still, something inside Lara told her she was ready. She looked in the mirror, and instead of feeling scared, she felt genuine excitement. This was not just a new professional challenge, but a challenge to her own identity. She was being asked to reinvent herself once again. Lara could no longer hide behind what was familiar. Success, for her, was now linked to the ability to take the next step, to take risks, to leave the margins and throw herself into the center of the arena. The opportunity, although frightening, was a reflection of the transformation she had experienced thus far. She was being tested, but more than that, she was being called to embrace her true greatness. Lara didn't know if she would be able to achieve what she wanted so much, but what she knew, without a shadow of a doubt, was that she could no longer live with the doubt and indecision that had accompanied her for so long. The decision to move forward was no longer just a matter of will, but of necessity. It was time to embrace the unknown and build something even bigger than she imagined she was capable of. So, upon accepting the challenge, Lara realized that, by embarking on something so big, she was not only transforming her career, but also her own destiny. This would be the moment that marked the transition from who she was to who she truly was meant to be. And with that, Lara understood that true greatness was not just in the end result, but in the courage to face the unknown, to embrace transformation and move forward, even without knowing exactly where the path would take her. Laura's journey was now even more exciting, more unpredictable, and, above all, more authentic. She was finally becoming who she always should have been, a fearless woman, willing to face any challenge and achieve the impossible. Lara entered the interview room with a mixture of anxiety and confidence. She knew this was the moment everything could change. That opportunity was, without a doubt, a milestone in his journey, but, at the same time, he felt increasing pressure. The challenge before her was immense, a test not only of her professional skills, but also of her courage and resilience. As she looked at the unfamiliar faces in front of her, Lara realized that, despite everything she had already achieved, she was still not free from her own fears. It was as if she was being taken to a deeper level of self-discovery, where, at the same time, external pressure mixed with the internal insecurities she still carried, but something inside her had changed. Instead of giving in to her fear, she took a deep breath and focused on what really mattered. She knew who she was now, and most importantly, he knew what he wanted for his future. She was no longer there to impress others or fit into other people's expectations. Lara was there to be the best version of herself, to show that she had evolved, that she was no longer the same person who started her journey. The questions began to emerge, each one more challenging than the last. However, instead of feeling overwhelmed, Lara felt something she had never felt before in a situation like this, a sense of power. She was finally in control of her narrative. The answers flowed from her mouth with a clarity and confidence she herself didn't know she possessed. Every word she said reflected the person she was becoming, a strong, focused woman willing to break any barrier. When the interview ended, Lara left that room with the feeling that something had changed inside her. The immediate result didn't matter. What really mattered was that she had challenged herself in a way she never imagined she was capable of. She was stronger, more prepared, more aligned with her purpose. However, the true test was yet to come. In the days that followed, Lara found herself immersed in a whirlwind of emotions. The pressure of work, the expectations of everyone around her, and, above all, her own expectations of herself began to accumulate. The doubts, which until then seemed to have been overcome, returned with full force. She questioned whether she would be able to handle everything. But, when she looked in the mirror, she remembered what she had experienced up until that point. She remembered the internal battles she had won, the fears she had overcome, the limitations that previously seemed insurmountable, but which she had broken down, one by one. Lara understood, then, that true strength was not in the absence of doubts, but in the ability to continue, even when those doubts arise. She didn't need to have all the answers, or all the clear paths in front of her. What she needed was to trust herself, trust that she had prepared herself for this moment, trust that her journey was just beginning. Lara began to understand that the transformation she was experiencing was not a quick process, but a gradual one. Each small step, each challenge overcome, brought her closer to her goal, and she no longer cared about time. She knew that as she moved forward, stronger and more resilient every day, success would come as a natural consequence of her dedication and perseverance. Life was testing his patience, his courage, and his determination. But Lara, now more than ever, knew she had what it took to overcome any obstacle. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew that as she moved forward with faith and determination, the future would reveal itself, not as a great mystery, but as a series of opportunities to be embraced. With each new challenge, Lara felt more capable, more aware of her own strength. She knew that true success was not just reaching the top, but becoming the person she was always destined to be. And, with that vision clear in her mind, she took the next step on her journey. A step full of confidence, courage, and an unshakable faith in your own potential. There was no turning back for her. Lara was finally becoming the woman she always dreamed of being, a woman ready to conquer the world, without fear, without limitations, just with the strength of her will and the certainty that the impossible was within her reach.